So this is podcast 6, Draw with Me, and today I'm going to be talking about comic book conventions. And tomorrow I'm going to be at a comic book convention at Powerhouse Comic Con, and I'm going to talk about an artist standpoint of comic book conventions and then the things I do, and hopefully all of you guys will learn from that. And this is a pre-show convention piece which I'm working on. I actually started drawing this. Now I'm going to be inking it. So I'm going to talk about the convention while I'm inking this. Hopefully I'll get this done today so I can give it to the person who commissioned me to work on this piece. So this piece was a Wolverine, like having a fight with Deadpool. 2 years ago, the client commissioned me to work on a Wolverine versus Deadpool, and it was like a Deadpool where I drew that he's standing there, and Deadpool was Wolverine was standing there, and Deadpool was like jumping over and doing like peace signs and stuff. And then he said, "Hey, let's do another follow up where Wolverine turns around." So this is what I did. It turns around and he's impaling Deadpool. But this was a piece that was an homage to one of the covers that the client contacted me and asked me to work on. So I don't really know I don't remember what the cover was. He sent me a photo, but I don't remember what the cover. So it's a homage. All I did was like redraw some of the characters differently. So today's live stream, I'm going to be inking this, and at the same time, I'm going to be talking about a comic book convention, etiquette about a convention, why I do conventions, and how I first experienced comic book conventions and stuff. So I'm going to start working on I'm going to start talking about what I'm doing in the inking process first, because anytime I need to use stencils, I need to like trying to think about what I'm using. This object here I'm using is called the French curve, and with the French curve you can really find any angles that any curves that you want. So I'm going to go here and start inking this line first. Make sure the ink is flowing in here. Yeah, so the first time I've ever been to a comic book convention was in San Francisco. San Francisco used to have a convention called WonderCon. Now it's in Los Angeles, Anaheim. Before it used to be in San Francisco Moscone Center for many years, and they just WonderCon decided to just up and leave because there was 2 years that Moscone Center where WonderCon used to be held at. They had renovations, so WonderCon couldn't really do the convention there, and WonderCon just decided to go to Anaheim to have the convention, and said that once the remodeling of Moscone Center in San Francisco is done, they would come back, but they never ended up coming back. And then now WonderCon's new home is actually WonderCon's current home, which has been their home for many years, is in Anaheim. And this was I think it was way before I became a comic book artist, so it was quite a while. And then anytime you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'm always open to answer your questions. That's one of the reasons I do these live podcasts, not just to tell stories, but also answer any questions on the spot. So if you have questions, feel free to ask, and I always try to get to everyone's questions. Okay. So WonderCon was one of the first conventions I've been to, and then after that was San Diego Comic Con. Another convention I used to go to. Now this is all before I started working in comics. So when I say I'm working like going to conventions, it's just, let me get a straight ruler. We use a ruler on this one here. Yeah. So when I was looking for work, I started going to WonderCon in San Diego Comic Con. I also went to another convention, which is also owned by San Diego Comic Con. San Diego Comic Con is run by, San Diego Comic Con is also, WonderCon is also run by San Diego Comic Con. They also have another convention for independent and small press called Alternative Press Expo, APE. And that one is still held in San Francisco, I believe. It's in the, I think it's in Concord. Those are the three conventions that I used to go to before all of these other conventions were popping up everywhere. ApeCon was also in San Francisco, but then that's more independent publishers. So not that many Marvel Marvel publishers or DC publishers or any of the other larger publishers. They didn't have Image Comics or anything like that at the time. Okay, I'm gonna start and finish this one here. Let me see if there's any questions. No. Hey, when going to comic convention, is it a great way to spread your work? Is it a good way to spread your work in the world? Yeah, when in the beginning when I went to comic book conventions, I actually was going there with a portfolio which is like an actual kind of like a I had a portfolio that if you can imagine a book where you can open up, but instead it was carrying all these photocopies of the pencils on the left side for me because I was trying to get work as an inker, and then photocopies of the inks on the right side. That way, the people that were looking at my work was able to see, what I've done with the pencils and what I've done with the inks. And they were full 11 by 17 sizes, which is the same as this size. So I carried that around at a convention. I also had this big portfolio bag, a bag that I placed that portfolio into, and it was like a carrying bag. So I had that carried around on my shoulder, so it was easy. But if you can imagine carrying that big thing on your shoulder for the whole day, and you don't really like. When I was going to conventions for work, I didn't have a booth or anything. So what I was doing was I just carried that, and then I would get shoulder burn on for the day. So when I went to San Diego Comic Con, or if I went to WonderCon, after the convention and I'm back at the hotel or I'm back at home, I would get shoulder burn because the portfolio was pretty heavy already. And then the portfolio bag, the carrying case, was also pretty heavy. So carrying that is pretty heavy. And then in there, I will also put in some of my sample kits, sample packs, I call them. The sample packs was just photocopies of what was in my portfolio that I was showing. Yeah, what I'm using right now is called a flex curve. So I'm actually, let me go further back so you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm actually using my hand to hold up here. I'm using my elbow to hold down here. This way, if I'm just using my hand to hold it and I'm inking, this thing will wobble around. Or if I'm holding down here and I'm inking a line, it will wobble around. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at the pencil piece. And this is the piece that I penciled by myself, by the way, in case you guys are wondering. So I'm placing this here, finding the right area, finding the right pencil line. Once I find that line, I place my hand here, and on the bottom, I place my elbow there. So I'm holding it with my elbow and with my hand. I only use this flex curve for larger curves because the French curves I have, it doesn't have that long of an arc. So I ink that one line. I'll go back and go over twice just to give it a little bit of line weights. I'll shift it over to find the other line. Because once you have that that curve, you want to maintain that curve by using that slight shift. I'm gonna have this go a little bit higher, okay? And then right here, I'm gonna find that curve. Once I find that curve, I'll hold on to it with my hand and then hold on to it with my elbow, with my left elbow. I did some YouTube videos in the past, and there was a viewer who saw me doing this, where I'm holding it with my left hand and holding it with my left elbow just to keep the flex curve in place. And that viewer mentioned, why don't you just get like a metal drawing board, and then after you get the metal drawing board, get some magnets to hold the flex curve in place. That, I thought it was a good idea, but that was just too much work. Like, I didn't want to really get like a whole different drawing table just to be able to use like a flex curve like that, because it's very rare that I actually use a flex curve. Most of the time there isn't that many curves that requires like such a long arch. Okay, there we go. So now we have these perfect arch over here. Let's see. Hey, Raul Meticulin, how are you? Glad to you guys are being here. Glad to see you here. So this piece I penciled, it's really rough because I know what I'm going to be doing during the inking process. So usually I'll just go in there and I'll ink and draw at the same time. I went ahead and did a lot of other areas that are pre-inked. So now I'm just gonna do some of the easier stuff with the brush. So comic book conventions, yeah. So before I became a comic book professional, I would just pay for comic book conventions and just go there. One of the first San Diego Comic Con that I've been to was was I think even before I was thinking about becoming a comic book artist. San Diego Comic Con, the convention passes used to be $60, but then they also want volunteers to help them. So if you were volunteering for San Diego Comic Con, they offer you like a free 2 days, and then you just volunteer for like maybe like 1 day, which was kind of nice at the time. These days, San Diego Comic Con is like so much more expensive. Okay, I'm gonna find this arch. So this is the same French curve, but today, as a working artist, I haven't gone to a comic book convention on my own. Most of the time, when I'm at a comic book convention, it's because that comic book convention invites me to be there. When I say invite, that means they contacting me like months in advance, sometimes a year in advance, and they'll ask me if I would be interested in going to the convention, and I'll say yes or no. And then once I'm there, I they usually give me a free pass to go inside. They also give me a free table, so I don't have to pay for a table, and so it's kind of nice. And depending on where the convention is located, they'll also actually this line should be over here. They'll also offer you travel and lodging. Travel and lodging is sometimes like if you have to fly to like Canada or something like that, they'll pay for the flight, and then you have a place to stay, so you don't have to like rent a hotel. So in a way, it's kind of like a little mini vacation that you can go, well, and you don't have to worry about like expenses because the convention invites you there, and then everything's all expense paid. Otherwise, if you're going to a comic book convention on your own, and then you're paying everything on your own, sometimes a booth can cost like maybe like 200 or $500 depending on what convention it is, and then you're really worried about trying to recover some of that money for paying at the convention. Like for example, if you rented that booth and that costs you $500 for the whole convention, you're focusing on is doing sales and commissions and seeing if you're able to like recover that $500. But if you're a guest, you don't really have to worry about it. Now there's a way for you to find out who's a guest and who's a like someone that just paid for their own booth. Usually they have in the comic book convention, they have an artist alley. Artist alley is where there's a lot of artists that would sell like different stuff. Sometimes you get like professional artists there also because they weren't invited. It's not like they weren't invited. I mean, the convention only has so much of a budget to invite people to go to the conventions. If they exhaust that budget, then they run out of room because the convention also needs to make money to run the convention. See, I'm going to draw this line. Let me find. Okay, so this is the back strap of Deadpool. So I'm going to find an arch that matches this one. I'm going to use this one. Yeah, so the convention makes money by selling tickets. Not only do they make money by selling tickets, they also make money by selling booths. So sometimes artists that are not invited, they would just go in there and just buy their own booths so they can sell their stuff or like do commissions or anything. When an artist is invited, the difference between being invited and running like your own booth is if you're invited, they use your name and they advertise that you're going to be there. So in a way, it's like marketing your face and promoting your stuff, saying that Walden Wong is going to be at this convention. Like for example, if you go to Powerhouse Comic Con, which is a convention that I'll be going to tomorrow, you'll see them post that I'll be there. So that's like when you know that the guest is invited. But sometimes you go to the convention and then you see other artists and you don't even know that they're there. Those artists are the ones that just pays their own way and they don't really market themselves. So the way a comic book convention makes money is to invite certain guests, especially if there are guests that are is popular and it can bring in more attendance. Like if someone likes, say, Jim Lee, and then a comic book convention invites Jim Lee, and they advertise Jim Lee is going to be there, more people is going to show up, more people is going to attend. That's how comic book conventions pays for all the travel and lodging. Okay, let's see. Glad I caught this. Doing well. Thanks, Walden. Hope you're good too. Long weekend up here in Canada, so just relaxing after a long week. Yeah, our weekend is a pretty long weekend for us over here too. Like in San Francisco, we like besides I'm going to a convention tomorrow, but we also have something called Beta Breakers, which is like a marathon event that's done once a year, where joggers and runners they'll run from one side of San Francisco all the way to the other side. So that's happening over here in San Francisco. It's not that bad, and I mean they run through Golden Gate Park all the way, and then because they run through Golden Gate Park, traffic is pretty bad here. They block off all the entrances and exits for cars, and people have there's only only a few entrances that people can drive through. Anyway, back to comic book convention. So there is some stories that I would love to tell you guys here, and I think this would be entertaining for a seasoned professional that's also been to comic book convention. Also, people that's never been to convention, and or people who are thinking about going to a comic book convention. So at a comic book convention, the fun part about going to a convention is that everyone that you meet has the same interest that you have, which is comic books, pop culture, manga, anime, and all of that. I'm going to talk about how I go to a convention now, these days, which is being invited and the process of all that. Sometimes when you're being invited to a convention as a comic book artist, the convention will ask if you can do some kind of exclusive item for them. So like in Powerhouse Comic Con, in this case, they asked me to draw like a exclusive print that they can give out to their viewers, and which not viewers but give out to the first 100 guests. So I drew like a Power Man and one of their mascots, Powerhouse, and they're gonna be printing 100 of those, and then they're gonna give it to the first 100 people in line, so they can have that print for free. It's like a full 11 by 17 print, which is a pretty good print. Okay, and in a way that helps some of the artists too. Like when an artist gets that print, they'll usually go to the artist, like myself. They'll find our booth, and then once they find our booth, they'll ask us to sign it. And then sometimes they'll even buy some of the stuff that we have at our table, or just to meet them and talk to them. That's pretty fun too. So in a way, the convention is helping the artists, and the artist is helping. We're kind of like feeding off each other, taking care of each other. Okay. So comic book conventions, I'm going to start from the beginning, and then this is kind of like a good for me too. So in a way, I'm running my mind of what I need to do like the day before I'm going to the convention. So the day before I go to the convention, I think about all the stuff I need to bring. Okay, as a comic book artist, as a professional who's going to be having a booth there. So the first thing I want to make sure I bring is I have like paper and pencil. I also have a bottle of ink. I'll carry that because most of the time people will ask me to draw commissions. Commissions are like where people come up to your booth and then they'll ask you if you can draw whatever. I've had incidents where people ask me to draw like a superhero character, like a Marvel character, or they'll ask me to draw them dressed as a certain character. I've had people commissioning me to draw their pets. I've had people commissioning me to draw their family, and there's lots of different things that you get requested to draw, and you don't know what you're going to be asked to draw. But so if you're confident about drawing, and then it should be okay. It should be fun. Like I like drawing. I know I'm known for inking, and I ink comic books in like for Marvel Comics, DC Comics, all the other publishers out there. But I also know how to draw. I also know how to paint. So being able to complete those requests for people who went to certain commissions, I can do it. The hardest part about doing that is sometimes you're under a time limit. Okay, so especially with the 1 day convention, which is a little harder, is that sometimes someone will come up to your booth and say, Walden, can you draw a picture of me and my mom? And I'm dressed as Batman, and my mom is dressed as like Catwoman, for example. And I'll say, great, I'll do that. Let me take a picture of your face so I can see how it looks like. And then I'll start drawing it. And then they'll ask, how long does it take you to finish this? And I go, I should finish it today because it's only a 1 day show. If the convention is a 2 or 3 day show, it's a little bit easier because if I don't finish it in 1 day, I can always finish it. Like I could bring it back to the hotel and then I can work on it later and then finish it and have them come back. So sometimes like people who are commissioning you, they only have like a few hours because they're leaving soon, and then they'll tell me, and then I'm under that time limit of finishing the work. So I try to gauge how much time it takes me to do that project, and then sometimes I'll have to put things in like I have to prioritize like which artwork needs to be done first because which ones which client is going to be leaving first, and then I'll ask them. I'll write on a piece of paper like, this person's name. I also put down the phone number, so if they're done, I can text them. Or if they forget to pick up their commission pieces, and that has happened. If they forget to pick up their commission pieces, I can contact them back and I can mail it to them or something. So with multiple day conventions, I have more time to do the work, especially if they're going there for more days, like the people who are commissioning me. But if it's like 1 day convention, I already know, regardless of if they're there for the whole day or if they're there for a few more hours before they leave, I know 1 day is a little bit more rushed. So when I know it's a little bit more rushed, I'll try to stay at my booth and I'll try to finish that work as quick as possible. I don't rush. I'll never rush, but I want to make sure that piece of artwork is done. So when they're back, they'll be able to like bring home. And I had times where a person commissioning me, they're coming back to my booth. They're looking at me back and forth, and then usually I have a really good like I remember people's face. Like some of you who've just met me at a comic book convention before, and I'll see you again. I remember like what I've done for you or what piece I've done for you. I remember one time like someone bought like a piece of artwork for me in Heroes Con, and I haven't been to Heroes Con for like 5 years. I went back and I saw that person again. They were just standing there, and then all of a sudden I'd say, "Hey, how's that Wonder Woman piece? Did you frame it?" And he goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe you remember who I am." And yeah, I do remember. Like I remember faces. I remember faces because I'm a people person. I just like getting to know people and then getting to know them. It's not so much the work or like when I go to conventions, it's not so much as to make money. My goal of going to convention is to meet people. I think that's more enjoyable than just to focus on making money. Let me see if there's any other question. Long weekend up here in Canada. Okay, do artists charge an appearance fee for showing up at conventions? That's a very good question, Rob McCann. And depends on who the artist is. Some artists do charge a fee, and also depends on what convention. That fee is called a per diem, which the convention will negotiate with the artist. So not only does the artist get like a transportation and lodging, they also get spending money. So if they're there for certain days, the convention will say, "We'll give you this much for this day," and it works. It works. Like I'm gonna let everyone know how everything works. I know some artists out there doesn't want to know how everything works, but I'm gonna like for hopefully my podcasts are enjoyable for you guys, because I'm very like honest when it comes to like telling everything the truth. Okay, so there's a few ways with these appearance fees. One appearance fee is like a flat fee. It depends on which convention you go to. So bleh, a flat fee is where, for example, they will say, okay, for each day you're here, we'll give you, like, I'm just gonna use a random number. Say we'll give you $500 a day or something, or we'll give you $100 days, or whatever that number may be. Of course, it's different for every artist. Okay, some artists are in the thousands, some artists are in the hundreds, or something like that. Now, if it's a flat fee, that's all they get. So if they're only there for 2 days, it's like that flat fee times two. If they're there for one day, then it's that flat fee times one. Now, comic convention also does something where it's called a guaranteed fee, guarantee per diem, and most of the time actors are the ones who are getting that. And then, with the exception of a few artists, I've been to maybe a couple of conventions where they gave me a guarantee fee, as opposed to like a fixed appearance fee. And let me tell you how that works. So you get there, you just you get a contract to sign beforehand, and on that contract, the convention guarantees that you'll make, let's just pull out a random number. You make $10,000 at the convention, and then that $10,000 includes anything you sell. Okay, so if you sold less, like the stuff that you sell is, the stuff that you bring on your own. If you brought like prints and photographs and pictures and signing autographs or whatever, if you make less than, say, that $10,000 guarantee, then the convention will pay for the difference. So that's the guarantee. So it's beneficial for the convention, because they're not paying you for the $10,000. They're just guaranteeing you that you will make that much money. If you don't sell that much on your own, then they'll cover the rest of it. Okay. Now, some of you are thinking, like, how will they know how much I sell? Now, that's a very good question. Okay, and the reason they know is that sometimes if you go to a comic book convention, you see these people working next to the artists, or these people working next to the actors. Those people that are working there, especially if they're wearing like a convention t-shirt, they're not like friends of the convention. They're not friends of they're not friends of the artists. I'm saying they're not friends of the artists, and they're not friends of the actors. Those are handlers. They're actually called handlers. What they do is they're there at the booth, and they're keeping track. Not only they're keeping track of how much money that person is making, especially if they're under a guarantee contract. So anything that you sell, they actually have a list of paper, like a piece of paper, that volunteer, that they'll write down how much you sold. Okay, and that person is there's also like this shift leader that walks around, make sure everyone's at their booth, and that person that's watching you, the handler, he or she, these are the volunteers that I was telling you about earlier. Like, if you go to San Diego Comic Con, you volunteer, you get these tasks, and then these are like one of the tasks. Sometimes you do like different duties, such as maintaining the lines, or like setting up badges, or making sure people are like behaving and stuff like that. Or if you're a shift leader, just making sure all these volunteers are doing the job. So they're those people, those handlers are there, and then they have a list under them, or maybe they have this little box that keeps track of all the money, and they get all the money, and then at the end of the convention, that money is pulled and counted, and is given to the artist or actor, and then they'll get the money that way. So those are the two different ways a comic book convention would invite an artist. I'm not getting any fees for Powerhouse Comic Con, because I like Powerhouse Comic Con. Like, I consider them a friend. And then they're very local to me. It's only like an hour away. But for some of the other conventions that's further away, like Powerhouse Comic Con, I could just drive there on my own, so I don't really need an appearance fee or anything like that, or guarantee fee because it's really close to me. But other conventions that are further away, like in like say I'm in San Francisco and the conventions in New York, or if it's in North Carolina or something, then instead of me paying for it, they do offer some kind of fee, and also travel and lodging. Let me see if there's more questions. Hey Hart, good to see you here. See, did you just have a micron for inking when started? Yeah, for this whole piece, I started out inking everything with a micron first. After with the micron, for those of you who don't know what microns I use these microns, the Statler. These are the same microns that Arthur Adams recommended me to buy, and ever since then, when I was inking him on the Incredible Hulk, he gave me a whole bunch of them. All those I don't use anymore because they died. I just started buying. I just kept using the same brand of microns with the different sizes, so they work out good for me. When they run out of ink, I actually refill them. If you look at some of my videos, my most viewed videos talks about how I refill these microns, so you can actually use these for years and years and years by refilling them. After I ink everything with a micron, I would ink. I would use a repeatograph. Repeatograph pins are these pins. Hart knows because Hart, who's also viewing this, I think Hart is also viewing this. He sent me a set of these microns at one time. He very nice guy. I met him at a comic book convention. A very good supporter of mine. And then he saw some repeatograph pins at a convention. I think this one is also one of them. These things last forever. You can refill them. You just open them up and refill these little cartridges with your own ink, and then you just continue using them for a long time. So I use these, and I'll use like stencils. I'll use stencils such as all those stencils that I have on top of my desk. Okay, that's how I have all my stencils placed. Okay, and it's like this stencil, this French curve over here, and also my flex curve, my ruler here. Everything is just within reach. And after that, I'll go in and I'll start using a brush to ink everything in, and then after I'm done with the brush, I will use a quill or finish off with a micron. I'm going to dip some ink. Okay, let me see. There's some questions. Let's see. Love the podcast, Walden. The interaction and learning a lot from watching your craft. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoy the podcast. You know, in the beginning, I didn't know if the podcast was like a good idea. It'll be like what it's not even the subject matter that I would talk about. Like some of the videos that I've done was based on like a subject matter, like something like how to taper lines, how to like hatch lines, how to do this, or go into a comic book convention. One of my patrons, Daniel, he's been following me for a while. He said, "Walter, you should think about doing a podcast." And I thought, podcast? How would I do a podcast? He goes, "Oh, just do it on YouTube." So I decided, okay, that's actually not a bad idea. So for people who don't really want to watch, they can actually download these podcasts and then play it on their devices later. So like if you're driving and you don't have time to look, you can just like listen to what I have to say, because I've been working in comics for quite some time, and I do have stories and stuff that I can talk about. And then I like talking. Like I'm a people person. I can talk forever. Sometimes if you see me at a convention, I'll just talk. Like it's just stories. And like one of the artists that I first known is Paul Smith. He's a artist that did some X-Men, but he's also a good talker too. I remember talking to him a lot on the phone, and he was so fun to talk to. Let me see if there's any other questions. And then I like all these questions that you guys are asking me. Let's see. Love podcast. Romitilin wrote, "It looks like a new inkwell, Walden. I don't think I've seen you use that before in your videos." Okay, so yeah, that inkwell. Let me tell you how this works. I know a lot of people ever since I started using it. So this inkwell that I'm using here is actually not an inkwell. If you look inside here, there is that bottle of ink, which is the same bottle of ink as this one. I placed this bottle inside a cigarette ashtray. Okay. I have a friend who gave me an ashtray. He actually gave me like a couple of them. And then I'll show you. Like this is I think a Mercedes car ashtray right here. And I'm gonna show you like this thing fits exactly. So if I'm angling it here, it stays flush. Like it's amazing how like here, you see like when I cap it, it stays flush exactly to where the lid is. I didn't have to like put any extra paper to raise it or lower it. It's just perfectly flush. It was just one day I was like seeing what I can use with this because I don't smoke anything. And the good thing is that if it spills, it'll just spill inside. Like if I'm using it, I can just quickly open it and close it, and then I can hold it like this so it's better grip. Because these little things, I don't know about you, but I know a lot of artists out there. They'll tape this bottle of ink on here because they're shaped like this, and sometimes you're holding it, it slip. Okay, and then so I got this ash can, an actual ashtray from I think it's for a Mercedes car, and what I do is I just took it, and then you can just unscrew it. Let me see if I can unscrew it. There you go. So I unscrewed it, and then I just put this little bottle right in here, and then I just capped it back. I just find the right place and cap it back. And then now when I'm using it, I don't even use the actual ink cap anymore. I just leave it off because when I'm closing it, it just caps it flush, and it just works out really nice. Okay, I'll add links below the video description after this, and then this thing like. Another good thing is if I spill the ink inside, who cares? Everything's all black already. So that is the equal that I've been using. So it does come in handy. I just accidentally discovered it, and then I'm just using it. So here, I need a bottle of ink. Just flip it open, dip it in there. When I'm done, just cap it back. I guess you can always put your brush, like your brush in here. Let me open up this brush. I guess if you're inking a long day, you can also put that brush there. So that kind of works. You can also put, I don't know, like your quill nips over there. So that kind of works out. Let me see if there's other questions. Yeah, Amazon does sell it. So I'll tell you there's a model number under this ashtray. So I'll type that in later. So if some of you wants to get it, you can also get it. It fits perfectly. Let's see, Princess Chameleon. What is the hardest thing when it comes to designing, creating a character? The hardest thing about designing and creating a character is just coming up with an idea of what your character is going to be. It's also important that you have a certain background to the characters. It's great to design the characters, but if you don't have a background to the character, what your story is going to be about, like what are you going to write about? If you have a character, you also want to think about who that character is going to be interacting with. So if there's going to be like enemy, bad guy, also like supporting cast, all of that is important. And then you probably can like write a character and then have that in there. And then next thing is to make sure you have some kind of design for the outfit. So if you have a design for the outfit and a color scheme, even though if you're printing a black and white comic book, your covers are still going to be in color. So there's all that process, and then how long that character's been around. Like, is it a teenager, or if it's like an adult and things like that. So it's having an idea is good. Like sometimes if you don't have an idea, it's still okay too. Like for example, like Marvel and DC, they have like characters that they're just copying each other, kind of like that. Aquaman and Prince Namor, Submariner, they're the same character, or like the Flash, or Flash and Quicksilver from the X-Men. That the same type of characters, just drawn differently and kind of the different designs, but all that there's kind of the same. Okay, let me see if there's any other questions. Reprograph. Creating a character. Reprograph is awesome. Thank you, Hart, for sending me that. I'm still using it. Just watching you set up and finish the illustration is priceless. Oh yes, okay, so it's good that you mentioned that. It's, watching me set up and finish an illustration. So this is the start of an illustration. Now, since this topic today is like comic book conventions. I'm also going to talk about like my setup for a convention and like the tear down. Like setting up is a rush. Like okay, so the convention opens at 10. I should be there by 9, yeah, at least by 9, because if you're there at the time the convention open, you really don't have that much time to set up. Okay, setting up does take a lot of time, especially if you have stuff around. You want like when I'm at a convention, I try to set everything up where I know where everything is. Also, like putting up your banners, setting up your table, making everything look nice and neat, everything like in its right place. Because if you don't have all that ready, and then people like once the convention starts, people are gonna start coming up to your booth like right away. Like sometimes they're there before the convention even starts, like exactly at like what is it, 10 o'clock. So I try to get all my setup done before the show opens. Not only that, I like making these YouTube videos where sometimes I'm actually walking around at the convention, and then I try to do that before the convention opens, so that I try to do that. So I try to go there a little bit earlier, given sometimes there's traffic to get there, or if you're traveling for the day, or if you're traveling to another state and there's a 3 hour difference, and then because I'm coming from the West Coast, and if I'm traveling to New York and there's a 3 hour difference, once I get there, I'm both sleepy and tired, and then getting up the next day, like usually if the convention opens at 8, or no, like say 9 o'clock, I need to be there at 7. But if I'm from the West Coast and I just got to New York and I need to be there at 7, that's like 3 hours earlier. So my body time zone is 765. That means I gotta wake up at 4 a.m. my time. So that takes a little bit of getting used to, like the traveling. So I'm gonna go through my process of setting up. So once I get there, the first thing I do is set up my banners, and a banner is really important. I learned that like I learned that like right away. I remember the first convention I've been to was at Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina. I didn't have a banner or anything. I was just sitting there, and I was sitting next to my friend Norm Ratmoon, and then he had a banner, and then I was just sitting there. The only thing I had was like my portfolio of artwork. That's all I brought, because I didn't really do conventions before then. The only reason I was there at that convention was like I won an award, and I was there to make an acceptance speech. This was many years ago. I don't remember exactly what year. So they gave me a table, and I was just sitting there, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't have anything to sell. I just have some artwork. I didn't end up selling anything at all. Maybe like a couple of pieces of artwork. And then there were people walking back and forth. I remember this specifically. I saw this. I saw a few times. I see people holding a comic book, and they're just walking back and forth. And I recognized the book, because that's the book that I worked on. And then I said, what is that guy? Is he looking for me? Like, why doesn't he like ask me if I'm Walden? Like, that's my work. Like, finally I saw him, and I asked him like, oh, are you looking for someone? Yeah, I'm looking for Walden Wong. And I said, yeah, that's me. And that's when I knew that having a banner is important. Like in comics, sometimes you're like, people read comic books and you don't really see how they look like. So people who are like trying to get autographs or like try to meet you, they don't really know how you look. So if you have a banner, it's actually better. So right away, people will recognize who you are, or easier to find you. So I got a banner. The banner that I got was like a simple banner that you just order at a like an online store, just like, I don't know, like any random banner. They make banners and stuff. And ever since then, it was a little bit easier. So when I'm at a convention, people was able to find me much easier. Also, when I'm setting up, not only am I setting up my banner, I'm also setting up all my prints. Prints are artwork that I've done. Usually they're artwork that's newly created. They're not artwork that's the prints that I sell. They're not artwork that's taken from a comic book that I've worked on. Usually, I would make like a new print, or I would draw something or color it, and I would just print it out, and I would sell it at conventions. Just something for collectors that wants like an autograph, and they didn't have a book or something, and they want to buy something. That's something that they can have. I also set up all my let me just. I also set up all my original art. So I bring my Itoya portfolios. Itoya is this brand of black portfolios that you could fit nice 11 by 17 pages. And then usually I'll bring, depending on the location, if it's closer to me and I don't have to travel that far, I'll bring maybe 5 portfolios. One portfolio is holding double pages, and then like 4 other portfolios are holding single pages. And then after that, I'll also set up my trading cards in case people want to buy trading cards. So I have that. Trading cards are sold less. I'll have also sketchbooks that I set up. I'll place it there, and I'll make little notations. If you want a sketchbook, I also do sketch covers and things. I also do sketches on like Bristol boards on the back of the comic book board. I also do like drawing on your sketchbook and whatever you need to draw. So all of that needs to be set up. Prices, I also put down like a little sign that shows all the different prices that I have, because it's easier to have all that, and then people can just look at your table at a glance and know what you're offering, instead of like questioning like what are you doing, what are you doing here, like what do you have to sell. If you have all that, it's easily available. I also have all my social media printed up on the same sign, so people will know. Before I did that, before I had a banner, people used to ask me what kind of social media they have, and then I would just go by and I have this, and this. But if you have all that, it just save a step of you explaining what you have, because everything's in the banner, and all they have to do is scan the QR code, and then once they scan it, they'll automatically get connected to my social media. I also have this thing on my phone, which is kind of cool. Like if someone uses, if they have like an iPhone or something, and then they tap my phone, it automatically brings them to my social media. So that's really cool. It also comes with a sticker. So I have all that set up. I also have I have 2 banners. One banner also holds some of my prints. Another banner is just my name, and then another banner has some artwork. And then over the table skirt, there's also my logo that's there along with my website. So it helps me advertise the brand that I'm marketing, which is waldenwongart.com. Yeah, so that's the setup, which takes maybe, I would say, if I go there and I concentrate and just focus on putting everything together, I would say maybe a good 40 minutes, 45 minutes, because I'm at a point where I'll just fold everything up and everything is placed automatically. I remember I used to do the setup, and it just took, I would put everything like neatly away and separate all the prints, put it all away. Now I don't. I just keep all the prints stacked nicely, how it's going to be set up for the next convention. So once I'm at the show, I don't have to spend too much time like putting everything in order. I just like I will open it up like a book and just place it all up there, and it'll be like so much quicker. I carry tape. I carry like extra Post-it notes and stickers and stuff, because you never know if something breaks it, so you have that fixed. Let's see if there's any other questions. Show your gear is important for new artists, so kids learn from Walden. Oh, thank you, Hart. Yeah, I like showing. Yeah, so when I first started working in comics, I didn't really. I mean, I don't want to like date myself, but back then there wasn't really internet. When I first started working in comics, it was just going to comic book conventions and meeting artists, and then talking to them, asking them for critique, and then asking them what tools to use. Because when I first heard about inking, I thought inking was just using like a ballpoint pen or using these repeatographs to just start inking with it. I didn't know what people ink with. I didn't know what a brush was. I didn't know what. I mean, I knew what a brush is, like toothbrush. Like that's the only brush I knew of. Or like a crow quill. I didn't know what a crow quill was. Like So I actually went to conventions and I talked to other artists, and they'll tell me, "Oh, this is a crow quill. This is a brush. This is what you should use. You should use a Winsor Newton. So like my thing is like for a artist, especially if you're a new artist, it's really good for you to learn all the rules and understand everything. And once you kind of understand it, then you don't have to follow exactly all the methods. I started learning, and then the first thing I learned from other artists and conventions was you have to learn how to use a Winsor Newton brush. A Winsor Newton, like here's like this isn't really a Winsor Newton. It's like a regular brush. So I learned how to ink with one of these regular brushes for a while. But then those Winsor Newton brushes, they were like around like $25 each. So they're kind of expensive, and then they kept falling apart. I had to like shampoo them. I have to like condition them. You really those Winsor Newton brushes are made of horsehair, those sable hair. So you after inking and you don't clean them, like if you imagine if you dip your head into an ink bottle of ink, you want to wash them to keep it clean. If you don't keep it clean, it's not going to snap into that nice sharp tip. So I bought those brushes, and those brushes was good for me for like maybe a few months, and then it starts falling apart. And it was like that over and over again. $25 a pop, $25, $27, $27. It was kind of expensive. So I knew how to ink with the brush. I knew how to control the brush, how to create thick and thin, how to like make it sharp and everything. I knew how much ink to dip and so forth. So one day I just went to this stationery store in Japantown in San Francisco, Kino, right across from Kino bookstore. I think it's called Maido or something. They had like brushes from all over from Japan and brought them here. And this is before Pentel started. I even have. I think I talked about this. Like this is one of the original wrappers that this was in. Okay, when I discovered that it worked for me, is also made by Pentel. When I discovered that it worked for me, I bought like a few cases of them. Each case had like 12. I bought like maybe 4 cases of them. I still have the original Japanese one. This is way before they had these for the American market. So I was inking with these for the longest time, and none of the comic book inkers were using. None of the comic book artists were using them. And then one day I decided I'm going to make YouTube videos. Should I talk about this brush pen? Like, should I talk about this brush pen if I like no one's using it? You know, I'm going to start talking about it. So after I started talking about it and showing people were interested in like, what's Walden you? What kind of brush is that? Don't you fill it? Don't you add ink to it? And I just explained more and more. And then now a lot of people use this brush. Yeah, a lot of people use this brush. They may not be looking at my YouTube channel. They may be, it could have been someone else looking at my channel, and then someone else told somebody else, and and so forth. And now like a lot of artists uses this Pentel brush pen to do inking, because this Pentel brush pen, well, when I bought them, it was only like $5 each. I think if you bought them now, they're maybe like maybe I would say $5, not that expensive. If you buy like the 3 packs, it's cheaper. If you buy the single ones, maybe they're like $8, and they do last really long. I don't even clean these brush at all. I don't clean them. I really don't clean them. People ask me, why don't you clean them? Aren't you afraid they're gonna clog? And it will not clog. Some artists, they'll buy these brush pens that's preloaded with ink already. They'll use that, and then I'm explaining why I don't wash them. They'll use that brush pen, and they'll keep using it and using it and using it, and not have to clean it until the brush is out of ink. Like asking someone like me who uses this over and over and not washing them is the same way as you have a Sharpie. You're done drawing whatever you need with a Sharpie. Do you wash the Sharpie? No, you're not going to wash the Sharpie. You don't really need to clean these. Everyone is so conditioned with cleaning these Winsor Newton brush that they were thrown off that you need to like clean these brushes. You don't even need to, like right now I'm making it without the barrel. You don't really need to ink the barrel. You just hold the tip of the brush, because that's the most important part, and then just ink it with that. Okay, I'm going to ink these fine taper lines over here. So in the pencil stage, I kind of scribble in all the pencil lines that I'm going to taper, and then I'll go back and then I'll make it a little bit cleaner. I type it up. I'll like add all that in here. Let me put that little thing back in here so it doesn't throw viewers off. Let me see if there's any other questions. Let's see. Uh, MacGyver ink ashtray. That's golden. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Hart is it's a MacGyver inking ashtray. That was accidentally discovered on my part because my friend gave me that. My friend, he works at like that Mercedes, and then he gave me a bunch of them, and I'm thinking, what am I gonna do with this? Like, I don't smoke or anything. Why are you giving this to me? So it just dawned on me, hey, what if I use that as an ashtray, as a inkwell holder, and it kind of worked out pretty nicely. Let me ink up these taper lines. Most times when I'm inking these taper lines, I really like to hold my breath and just make sure those lines are like a little bit more smooth. That's why sometimes I don't really talk that much to just make sure okay. That's why I'm slowing down on the talking a little bit. But it's not that I'm slowing down, but I do like talk. I just want to make the lines a little bit more precise. Let me see if there's any other questions. That is so cool. I love that Mercedes ashtray as a holder for your ink. Yeah, it worked out. Yeah, I think it turned out pretty nice. Are there any old school artists that you enjoy inking? Guys like George Perez, Walt Simonson, John Romita. I've inked the John Romita piece before. It was actually. Let me see. Oh, let me see if I can go grab it. Let me see. And then someone also commissioned me on another. I'll show it in the future. Actually, go grab it right now. I'm drawing on an incline table, and my paper is just. Let me see. It's just moving all over the place. Let me hold this aside. Let me grab the. Let's see if I can't find it right away. Then I'm going to show it. Here it is. So this is a John Romita Jr. It's Thanos. Someone commissioned me to ink this piece, and it was very simple. It was a simple sketch that John Romita did, and the client asked me to do a blue line inking, and that's how it turned out. And I'm going to be doing another one, which is a Spider-Man piece by John Romita Jr. But I haven't inked. Hey Daniel, how good to see you. Hey Jack, good to see you here, Jack. Let's see. No class tomorrow, Jack. Jack is one of my students that comes to my art class on the weekends. Let's see. I've yet to ink George Perez. I haven't inked Walt Simonson. John Byrne never inked. Oh, Frank Miller never inked. Never got a chance to work to them. So they're like, yeah. I don't know if I ever get the chance to ink over their work. I know that Walt Simonson complimented me on one of the pieces that of Ragnarok, one of his characters. Like I drew a Ragnarok, and that Ragnarok, if those of you who want to see it, is actually on my website. If you look at commissions, there's actually like a picture of that Ragnarok that I worked on. It's something that I penciled and something that I inked. And I use that for my commission section, so people have an idea of how my commissions look. If they want to commission me to pencil and ink something. Okay. Yeah, but I haven't gotten a chance to ink some of those. But I do admire all those artists. John Romita Jr. is one of my favorite artists that I just enjoy. I just recently bought some trade paperbacks of Spider-Man, his recent Spider-Man that he worked on. So I like his work a lot. Let's see. That's clever. Rocky Road. I like your screening. I find using quills hard. Yeah, quills are hard. I'm also going to introduce you guys to like this quill holder that someone told me about. So there was this quill holder that I was using, which was nice. This is called the grift hole holder. They don't make this anymore. This grift hold holder, I'm gonna show you guys how this works. So this grift holder, you unwind it, and then it clamps on to the nib. Like it's really nice. You just place this here, and it's metal. You just buy your own cushion, and so it fits nicely, and it just lasts forever. As opposed to using these plastic quill holders, these dollar plastic quill holders, they're okay, but after using them for a while, like they just don't feel nice. Like you can always put a cushion on. Like what I do, I'll just put a cushion here, and then it'll just make this kind of bigger, so it's easier to use. But recently, someone pointed me to this thing. This thing is like pretty awesome. Okay, it's about the same size as a grift hold, but this thing you can actually open it up, open this up, and you can actually put quills inside. Like you can put it inside, and it could be actually I think you put it inside here, like this. So you can like put like 5 of them inside to hold it, and you can actually, if you want, if you have a specific quill, let me put this back, and I'll at least actually, if you go to my website and you go to my Amazon store, I added this to there, so you can find that. You can hold a nib on this side. You can also hold a nib on this side. Okay, so you can unwind it, and it can clamp another one if you have a smaller nib. And then you open this up. You can also put whoops. You can also put extra nibs inside. So if you're out of nibs and then you want to bring it to a convention or whatnot, you can do that. This isn't really used for holding nibs. It's originally used for like scoring leather stuff. But someone pointed to me that you should try using this, and just turns out really good. It feels nice too. Like, so you're not holding metal. It's like this heavy, thick plastic barrel over here. Okay, let me put that back. Let me see if there's any other questions. Good to see you here, Daniel. Jack, good to see you here. That Thanos looks great. Great. I inked the burn practice page. I actually liked it better than inking over image artist. You know what? Now that you mention it, I have inked a John Byrne piece when I was doing samples. So some of the questions when I was answering, like I haven't inked John Byrne. I haven't inked John Byrne professionally. I haven't inked Frank Miller or Walton Samuelson, but I have inked a John Byrne sample piece, which I think it turned out horrible. I think it was John Byrne's Turok, that Valiant character Turok. So I did that, and if you look at some of my older videos where I show like some of the my samples that I've done in the past, you probably see that it's not even worth looking. It's horrible. Like I was really bad. I think I was inking with like repeatograph pins, and I didn't know like all the correct tools to use. Let me ink this in. Let me add this blood stain in. And then let me add some more blood stain over here, so I don't have to ink so much taper lines in between. Okay, right over here. Add some more here. There we go. And then I'm gonna fill all this in here. Okay, let me see if there's any other questions, and I'll go back to talking about setting up at conventions. Let's see, John Murray. Hello, Walden. Who would you want to, Backsand said, hello, who would you want to ink if you could choose anyone? Okay, that's a really, really, really good question. If I could choose anyone to ink, I would love to ink. There's 2 people that I would love to be able to ink. And that's Andy Kubert and Adam Kubert. Those 2 artists are some of my favorite artists. I haven't gotten the chance to. I met them before at a convention. I met all like Andy Kubert, Adam Kubert, as well as Joe Kubert. Joe Kubert complimented me on my inking when I first started showing him my stuff. I never show Adam Kubert or Andy Kubert, but if there was a wish list of someone that I would love to ink over, that would be Andy Kubert and Adam Kubert. Between the 2, I would say Andy Kubert first. Andy Kubert and then Adam Kubert. Okay, I can tell both their styles apart like really closely. I love both their work like really, really much. And anything they work on, I buy. Like any books that they work on, I buy just to study the art. And then I know Sandra Hope inks over Adam Kubert a lot, and Sandra does like a really, really amazing job. But if I had like a wish list of someone that I can work with, that would be Adam Kubert and Andy Kubert, the Kubert brothers. Let me see if there's any other questions. Daniel Roos, I'd love to hear your opinion on inking styles like Scott Hanna or Klaus Janson compared to Danny Mickey or or Detron. Scott Hanna, I met Scott Hanna a few times. He's a really, really great person. He's such a pleasant person to be around. I met him a few times at a Heroes Con at he was my booth neighbor, and then I'm just working. He just comes by and takes a look at me doing commissions, or I'll walk by. He at Scott Hanna, like I know Scott Hanna is also a really amazing artist himself. He draws really, really good. And but then he told me the story where he decided to go into the inking field as well instead of the penciling field, because with inking he can ink more pages than penciling, and he can get more done, which is true. Like if you're working in comic books, if you're penciling and you're inking, you can actually get more work. You can get more work done when you're um, when you're inking. With the penciling, that takes a little bit more work because you're laying out a page, and then you're sending it in for approval. So once it's approved, you draw it again, and after drawing it, you have to get another approval, and then after it's approved, then it's done. So that might take a long time. But if you're inking a page, once you get the pencils, you just start inking. There's no real approval process, so that's much quicker. So in on that aspect, you can make more money as an inker compared to if you're a penciler. Um, you can. I mean, I guess it really depends on how much of a page rate that you make. If you're inking and you're inking a lot of pages and you get a lot of work, then you can be really busy and you can make more money than a penciler. If you're a penciler and you don't get any work done, you're probably not going to make that much money. And that's something that I also talk about. Like speed is really important when you're working in comics. Uh, like working in comics is a deadline driven industry. Without the deadlines, like nothing will be done. Like I'm so accustomed to working in deadlines that when there's no deadlines, it throws me off. Like I still want to have a deadline to make sure the artwork is done on time. Let me see. Those other artists. I know Scott Hanna is a brush inker. Klaus Janson is also a brush inker. Now, Danny McKee, who I'm a friend with, before I started working, Danny McKee and I would talk on the phone a lot. He used to have a crime lab. I remember like messing around with him. Like, I should do a crime lab north or something. We were laughing. Detron, he's also a good inker. Detron's real name is Dewey, Duey, Dewey Trong. Dewey Trong. That's his name. He's so Danny McKee and Dewey Detron, they're both quill nib inkers. I think now Danny's starting to do brushes because brush is just so much faster. It holds more ink, so you can get more work done faster. But back then, he's all about the brush and textures. Well, I know some of you guys don't know, and Danny doesn't really talk about it, but yeah, he has I guess his Crime Lab Studios, Crime Lab Syndicate or something, where he does have assistants doing some of his inking work back in the day. Like Victor, also Victor, he was one of his assistants at the time. Now he's doing his own work. But Danny had like a lot of assistant inkers. I've been to Danny's studio or his house a long time ago when I first started working in comics. I remember doing a signing in San Francisco. One of my friends who knew Danny said, "Can Walden? I mean, Walden wants to see how your studio is." I remember going to inside his studio, and I saw like 3 drawing tables. Like I didn't know like why would one person need 3 drawing tables? Danny would sit there, and then his assistants would sit over there and there. And like anytime they needed help, Danny would just go and like do stuff. And then Danny would ink all the main characters, and his assistants would ink like backgrounds and bodies or whatever. But I thought that was kind of neat. That's when I first discovered Crime Lab Studios, Crime Lab Syndicates. And when I started talking to Danny later on the phone, I said I should start up a Crime Lab Studios. This was a long time ago. I don't even know if he still goes by Crime Lab Studios anymore. We used to send each other like holiday cards like every year, and then things went digital later on, and then we don't send Christmas cards anymore. let me add some of this detail. So during the image days, there were the quill nib inkers, and then before then it was the brush inkers, because most inkers were in comics back in the day, they were using a brush more. It wasn't until Scott Williams started inking where he was using a quill nib, and things just started going that direction. Scott Williams, and also Art T Bear, and Art T Bear started training some of the image extreme studio image comic people how to use a quill nib, and then I learned how to use quill nib through another inker, which is Marlo Quiza. And Marlo learned how to use a quill from Art T Bear. So every time I see Art T Bear at a comic book convention, I always call him, he's the godfather of inking, because like what I learned from inking, I learned from Marlo, and what Marlo learned from inking, he learned from RT Bear. So it originated from someone, and then I give credit to those people that originated it. So yeah, I think Scott Williams was one of the first, and then it went on from there, because the pen was just so much more like precise, like you're using a pencil. Let's see if there's okay. Hart wrote, "What is your page inking turnaround?" So my page inking turnaround, on the average, like at a comfortable pace, I like inking one page a day, and we're talking about like pages that has panels. Like if you could do one page a day, that's pretty good. I've done 2 pages a day, which is okay. Just less sleep. I've done 3 pages a day, which is a little bit rougher, and that is like even less sleep. So being able to do 1 page a day, that's a comfortable pace. I like doing 1 page a day. If I have extra time, which is rare, I try to like spend more time on the page. But most comic book, like if you do 1 page a day, that's a good pace. Let me break it down a little bit more, just to give you a scope of how 1 page a day works perfectly. Comic books are 20 pages, not include. I mean, you pick up a comic book these days, one of these floppy comic books, and it seems like it's more than 20 pages, because there's ads, and ads about like the other comic books that's going to be coming out, ads from Coca-Cola, or like toys or whatever ads, okay? And then not including all those ads is really 20 pages. So one monthly comic takes 20 pages to complete. Okay. And now if you break up a month, you have 4 weeks in a month. Okay. Each week, not including Saturdays and Sunday, that's 5 days. Okay. So if you have 5 days with 4 weeks, that's 20 working days, not including Saturdays, Sundays. So a monthly book takes 20 days. So if you're a professional inker and you're on par with your speed, if you can ink a page a day and you're only inking one book, then you'll maintain your deadline, and then you'll also have your Saturdays and Sundays to do whatever you want on your free time. Now there are other inkers and artists who work on more than one book a month. So if they're doing 2 books a month, they're forced to. Well, I wouldn't say they're forced. Their option is to work more diligently, and to be able to turn in 2 pages a day. Because if they're doing 3 books, they'll be doing 60 pages, and you break it down per day, that's like 3 pages a day. Now, if you if you goof around, then you're going to end up working on your weekends. So that page a day will spill over to your weekends, and then you'll be working on weekends and trying to catch up. So there's that. Okay. So being a freelance artist, you really need to be really diligent. You are your own boss. Some people will say, "Oh, you can work at home. You can go out whenever you want. You can goof off. You can like take a break." This is not like to be a really good freelance artist. You really need to be able to manage your time really well. If you don't manage your time, you're gonna fall behind. You're gonna fall behind, and you're not gonna get that much work in the future. This is really true. If you fall behind, editors are not going to hire you back to do more work. You really need to maintain, and then make sure you can maintain that schedule. Uh, when I'm doing work, I like to what I like to call this. I like to under promise and over deliver, which is when the editor asks me how long it's going to take you to do this, I do a quick estimate. Like, can I see how many pages? Like, can I see the pages? You know, sometimes I'll get editors offer me work. They say, I have like 10 pages that need to be done. How long will it take you to do this? And they'll ask me this before I even see how the book looks. So I always ask them, can I see how the pages look? Of course, if it's more detail, it's going to take me a little bit longer. If it's less detail, it's going to be a little bit quicker. So I really need to find out how the pages look, and I can give myself estimate. And then when I do estimate a time for the editors, so they have a rough idea of how it is, I always factor in emergency just in case I can't finish it, and I overestimate. I underestimate. What is it? Overestimate? Underestimate. Like I'll say more time, but then when I turn in the project, I'll turn it in before the date that I say I was gonna finish it, just so they have it sooner. That's better. So if you're thinking about being a freelance comic book artist, or freelance like whatever, or just work in general, it's always better to under promise and over deliver. Okay. Let me see. So the average is maybe a day a page that's comfortable. Let's see. Robinson wrote, Walden has a video where he shows old sample pages of his past work when he was starting out. If anyone wants to check it out, it's a fun video. Yeah, that's horrible pages that I've worked on, but it's still a fun vid. I'll eat backgrounds for you. Yeah, backgrounds isn't, I actually enjoy inking backgrounds. Like I think I mentioned in some of my other podcasts where there were a couple of artists that contacted me and asked me to be the background inkers. And I still talk to them today if I see them. One of them is Mark McKenna. Mark McKenna contacted me and asked me to be a background inker. He was inking Magnus Robofighter at the time. Actually, it was Mark McKenna who contacted me at the same time that Andrew Peapoy contacted me. Those two inkers, they got my business card from me meeting at them at the convention, took my samples, and then one day within that same month, they contacted me, asked me if I would be interested in doing some ghost inking. That's what they call it, ghost inking, where I would ink. For Mark McKenna, it's where I would ink backgrounds and I would send the artwork back to him, and then he would ink the figures. So it was just background inking. With Andrew Peapoy, he offered me where I would just ink the whole page and then he would pay me out of his pocket. And then Marvel will just print the book and it'll be under his name. So that's ghost inking. So I did talk to Danny Mickey at the time, bring it back to Danny Mickey again. Danny said, if I told him that, this is two guys, inkers, they asked me to do some ghost inking with him. Should I do it? And then Danny said to me, do not do any ghost inking. Like Danny said to me, I'd rather you practice inking and not get paid for it than to do ghost inking and not get credit for it. You should always do work and get credit. If you're not going to get credit and you're doing it for someone else, even if you get paid, don't do it. So I listened to Danny, and then I decided not to do any ghost inking. And so yeah, so I didn't. But then Mark McKenna still remembers me from back in the day. Like sometimes he'll see me and we're talking to other artists, and then Mark would always say, "Yeah, this Walden, I remember when he was like new, and now look at him, he's all blown up like that." And Mike and I were good friends. Like I see him as a really good friend. Saw him at a few comic book conventions. I think I saw him at a few local conventions, and then we were getting ready to leave to the hotel and go to dinner somewhere. He goes, "Hey Walden, let me drive you." And I'm like, "You live local to here?" Yeah, I love Mark. Mark McKenna is a really really nice guy. Andrew Peapoy, I don't really see him at comic book conventions that much. I saw him because he used to have a panel where he talked about how to promote yourself in marketing and stuff, like how to get your work out there. And he got my samples, and then that's when he contacted me to do some ghost inking. I just didn't really do any ghost inking. He asked me to do some ghost inking for Mutant X, which was like, I think it was like a few pages, like a good chunk of page. I just said I rather not do it. And then Marvel decided to contact me later because the Marvel editor had my sample. And then it just so happens I'm glad I didn't do any ghost inking for Andrew Peepor because I actually got published work from the same book that he was gonna ask me to ghost ink. So yeah, so those are only two times that I did ghost inking. So no background inkings or anything like that for other artists. But for any of you guys who wants to be like a professional artist, I would recommend the same. Don't do any ghost inking. I rather you guys practice, and then eventually, like you will just start getting the work. Like it would just happen automatically. You become a professional artist before you even know that you're a professional artist. Like let me explain that. Like I was doing a lot of practice inking. All of a sudden NTT Comics contacted me and said, hey, well, would you like to ink some stuff? We can't really pay you, but we can still publish you. So sure, I'll just ink it. I don't mind. I mean, once I'm done inking it, they're gonna print the book, so I get credit. So even though it's no pay, that's okay. And then that happened for like I think Lightning Comics. This is comic book publishers. They're not around anymore. They went defunct because they don't do comic books anymore. Another publisher that actually contacted me was Antarctic Press, and and I was under the same tune. Okay, they'll probably contact me and not pay me anything, and then but at least I get work done. It's fine, it's okay. Like I rather practice, and then I have work that's published, and then I'm still I'm still like practicing. At least my work is going to be published. So I did that, and then Antarctic Press, they decided to pay me, and they paid me $8 a page, which was really hardly anything, but at least they paid. Like even though I wasn't expecting them to pay me that much. So and then all of a sudden that led to other work which was paying me like I think it was Liar Comics. Uh, they were paying me like $60. No, they were paying me $30 a page, I think, at the time. Liar Comics later on became Image Comics, and then so it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna ink it, and my love for inking because I like artwork. I'm just gonna be doing the artwork, and if it gets printed, it'll print a lot of people can see it. And I remember I was working with Steve Furco at the time. Steve Furco, he used to be the colorist for Mark Silvestri over at Top Cow. He colored like a lot of Mark Silvestri stuff. So I didn't know of Steve Furco at the time. I met him because he was drawing More Than Mortal for Liar Comics, and I was inking him. And then he is a great guy. See, I mean, he helped me along the way to get my work shown to Top Cow Studios, and that's how I got some of my work. I remember I think he was probably getting paid a lot for drawing More Than Mortal because he was not only was he drawing it and then I was inking it, he was also coloring after I was done inking it. So he was paying me an extra $30 out of his pocket. I don't know if this is some kind of like contract with the publisher, but the publisher only paid me 30, and then Steve Furco paid me 30, and he liked my work, and that was kind of nice. And then later on, I started getting more work, like with Marvel and DC, and I didn't realize that I was, because I was just on a roll with doing independent work at the same time I was doing Marvel work, and I just did it, and I didn't realize that. I mean, I knew it was Marvel and DC, but it wasn't a big deal because I just wanted to do all the inking stuff and get it done. Like, so I was doing some independent books at the same time that I was doing Marvel books. So all of that just happened. So when I say if you practice inking and you just do it for the love of inking, eventually you're gonna be doing it professionally before you even know it. Because that's exactly what happened to me. I just started getting like Marvel work and DC work before I even knew it, because I was still handling all the independent comic book work. Even now, like today, if I have Marvel work and then an independent publisher contacts me and then it's like something that I want to do, I'll just do it, because it's not so, for me, it's not so much the money, it's more so the fun of doing the work, because I just like art in general. Let me see if there's any other questions. I'm going to keep talking for this podcast until all this is done. This one's going to be a while. I need to finish this because I need to give it to the client tomorrow anyway. Let's see. Start back. Hello, Walden. How's it going? Hey, Danny. How's it going? Good to see you here. Apart from Scott Williams and Jim Lee, what is your favorite penciler inker team? My favorite penciler inker team because I do like the way Chris Bacalo and Tim Townsend work together. I think they're like a really great team. I was able to ink Chris Bacalo like a couple of times on Venom, but I think those two working together is really good. I also think um, Adam Kubert and Sandra Hope. I think they're a really good team. Also, I think they really click. They're both of them are really good. Let's see what other artists inkers are out there. Joe Prado, and Ivan Reese. They're a really good team. I think they're really good at working with each other. Like if you've seen some of Joe Prado's work and you see some of Ivan's work, it's funny. I met Ivan a long time ago before he's like making superstar. Joe actually introduced me. At the time, I was working on Warlord, and Joe Prado was the penciler, and I was inking over him, and he was in charge of I think it's called Karacha Studios, where he represents different different artists. And he introduced me to Ivan Reese. He's a nice guy. He actually introduced me to a lot of people. Joe is such a nice guy. And I think Joe even asked me if I wanted to be a part of his studio, but I decided no, I don't really need to be a part of the studio. Just like I don't want to be like a ghost inker. I don't really need representation. I remember when I first started my career, I met like a lot of companies that wanted to represent. Like back then, there used to be this company called Star Reach that was run by Mike Friedrich. I think that's his name. And I remember Paul Smith introduced me to him, and Paul said, "You should work with this guy." And he said, "We don't represent inkers." And it's like okay, I guess you don't represent inkers. I guess you just represent pencilers. And I was kind of crushed that he wasn't. So ever since then, I said I don't think I want to like you know like get representation or things like that. It's nice though if you get representation. You don't have to worry about looking for work. Someone will find work for you. But if you're good with talking with editors and stuff, which I think I'm okay with talking with editors, you do okay. Yeah. So just remember, like I mentioned this in some of my other videos. To be able to be good in the field of comics, you have to be able to draw good. You have to be doing it fast, and you have to just get along with people. I think I get along with people. I like getting along. I'm a people person, and I say that a lot because I just like talking to people. Let me ink the skies, Deadpool's lines over here. Let me see if there's any other questions. Oh, have a good night, Daniel. Looks like you're leaving me. Do comic companies require, let's see, do comic companies require an inker to work traditionally, or can an inker work digitally? These days, the comic book company they don't require you to work digitally or traditionally anymore. If you're inking and you just want to do the work, you can do it any way you want, unless you work with an inker that wants your stuff to be inked traditionally. Like when I was working with Jimmy Chung, Jim Chung. Sorry for calling him Jimmy. I'm just used to calling him Jimmy. Jim likes his artwork to be inked traditionally. So when I was able to ink him that time, he was sending me the Bristol boards, because some artists feels that with the page that's actually inked over the originals is worth more than pages that are like just in pencils. So depending on what artist that you may be working on with, Danny, you may be working traditionally, or you may be working digitally. For myself, I can ink both ways. I can ink digitally or traditionally. But when I'm doing comics, I kind of like inking traditionally, and that's also because at the end, when the project is done, I have an actual piece of artwork that I can like sell, or I can give to friends, or I can like trade, or do whatever with it. I just have that extra income, so to say. But if you're just doing it traditionally, and when the artwork is done, you don't really have like an actual tangible piece of artwork left. Sometimes when I do pieces of artwork like this, when I'm done, there's an actual piece. It's funny, like sometimes like I'll get clients that commissions me to work on a piece for them, and I'll draw it, and then when I'm done, all they want is the the digital print, like the digital scan. They don't really want the actual artwork, which is, I guess, is a new generation of art collectors, or maybe they just want the artwork for um, for their website or something. Like these John Romita pieces, someone's contacted me for me to do the inking for them, and then when I'm done, I just send them a scan and I keep the original artwork. So that's like a commission. But comic publishers, they don't really require you to do either way, one or the other. So you can actually do like traditional inking and partial digital inking if you like. One of the pieces that I'm working on for Marvel right now, it's Asgard. I did some traditional inking on the page, and I'll scan it and I'll do a little bit of digital inking. Digital inking because I wanted to add some gray tones on top of it. So you can actually do whatever you want these days. There's no rules. Publishers aren't gonna say you have to do this, you have to eat traditionally, you have to eat digitally. The nice thing about working traditionally, however, I should say, is that Marvel and DC, if you work with them and you need Bristol board, like these Bristol boards, they'll send you Bristol boards, so which is kind of good. Like these boards has their name on it, so that's like a nice extra. So you don't have to go to a store and buy it and then look for it and don't have it. Marvel and DC will send you the boards. I think with DC, they'll also send you the type of boards that you want. They have like rough stock and smooth stock. With Marvel, they only have the one stock, which is Eon artboards. So Eon, ever after the Marvel used to print their own boards and then they would have it at their office and they would send it. But ever since the pandemic, Marvel decided to contract out another company to have them print Marvel boards, and all it is it's just a printer printing out like whatever, just putting whatever logo over there. So they decided to have Eon artboards use their artwork. I'm not really a fan of how Marvel Eon artboard sends the Bristol boards out. They send it flat, and then a lot of times the artwork is the original boards. When it gets to me, it gets all crushed, or the box gets all bent up and stuff. But it's just really nothing to do. When Marvel was sending out the artboards, they were sending it in these FedEx boxes, and then because it was in the form of a box, the box didn't get bent or crushed. Sometimes it would get crushed, but at least it didn't get bent and damaged. So that was the thing. Eon artboards, what they do is they don't, I don't know, like it's interesting like how they do it. Eon artboards, they'll take like a UPS box, they'll flip it inside out, so they're actually using a box that a UPS printed, and they'll flip it inside out, and then they'll fold it back up and tape it back up, and then it's shipped in, and then it's placed inside this two FedEx regular envelopes, like so imagine a Bristol board here, like you have this Bristol board, they place like a half FedEx box envelope here, half envelope here, kind of tape that up. After it's taped up, they put it into a inside out UPS box and ship it flat. So the outside, it will be that brown cardboard, and then the inside will be the UPS like use the UPS logo and everything. So that's how that's shipped. Instead of shipping directly with UPS, they just ship with post office. So that's how that works. Let me see if there's any other questions. See, do comic book companies, so you have a great night, Walden. Do you ever worry about the direction the comic book industry seems to be heading in terms of future employment? Comic sales weren't doing so well in recent years. Yeah, I actually thought about that. I actually thought about that even before I went into working in comics, because when I first started wanting to be an inker, the art director at Marvel told me that inking will eventually be obsolete. Like they won't be using inkers anymore. And I didn't understand that, because at the point they were using inkers, and then later on Marvel tried to do all the Ultimate lines where they would try to phase out inkers. So they not having inkers, it saves them money, and it just but then the artwork just started to not look as good because like at the time when they were doing these X-Men, Ultimate X-Men, or Ultimate Spider-Man, the Ultimate titles, all of them were printed directly. It was colored directly from the pencils, and then you can see sometimes, like you see how I drew X here, all these X's. So the colors will scan the pencils, and then they don't erase the X's or they don't fill them in. They'll just color directly over it, and then you see these X's underneath like a dark color. So that kind of didn't really look that well. And then, like more recently, I know comic sales have gone up because of the pandemic. People weren't really going out to buy entertainment, and most of the comics and manga, especially manga these days, they're especially digital books these days. They're doing much better. So, like as for coming from a standpoint of a artist that like worrying like I would say, like, if you're an inker, if you want to be an inker and you're worried that there won't be any potential jobs in the future, I don't see that. I mean, I've been working in comics since, let's see, 1996. I mean, inking since 1996. So that's quite a long time already. It is 1996. See, how many years is that? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3. 10, so that's like 27 years, I think 27 years right now. And I'm still inking even to today. Like, I'm still inking, and I still have like so much stuff that I need to complete, and then it's just waiting for me. And if you're not working with the if you're not working with the big publishers, there's also like independent publishers that wants to work with you. If you're not working on indie publishers or like a big publisher, I have like all these commissions waiting for me to finish. And then I constantly get asked to do commissions, and then there's just, and I also get asked to do like pencil projects for independent publishers. But I haven't really worried about like not having work, because it's just, from my standpoint, it's just like just too much work. There's a lot of work. I wish there was like more me, so I can like get more work done or get it finished sooner. Like I'm looking over to the left of my table right now, and there's like stacks of stuff that I need to do. Let me tilt it so you guys can see. I can't tilt it because those stuff needs to be published. If I look over there, you see a stack of work. There's a whole bunch. Okay, there's also another stack on the other side. Just whole bunch. So for me, I don't like. There's gonna be a lot of work. That's why I say that for any aspiring comic book artist that wants to be an inker or penciler, there's always going to be work. That Marvel's always going to be hiring. Comic books will always be publishers. I know there's a lot of artists out there, especially professional artists that are what can I say? What's the correct term? Greedy, and they don't really want to share work, or they'll keep all their secrets. But I don't think that's really like necessary, because there you're one artist, and there's hundreds of books that's published monthly through like the comic book stores. There's no way one artist can do all that. If you're one artist, you're able to do 2 books. That's okay already. That's like 40 pages a month. Like, no reason to be greedy and to be like not share some of your inking techniques and stuff. I like sharing, because I think that the more I share, the better the future generation of comic book inkers will be in the future. And it's nice to share, because when you see someone excelling, if you see someone excelling and getting good at what they learn from you, it just feels nice. I think it just feels nice when someone learns something, and then they remind they say, oh, I learned this from Walden, or I learned this from Walden's YouTube channel. Just like how I would say, I learned how to use a brush from Paul Smith. I learned how to use a quill from Marlo Cuisa. That's like honor. It's just like a badge of honor. Let's see. Hart wrote, when you are assigned to a new penciler, what is your process? Do you discuss anything with the artist? How they would like to be inked, types of inking, brush strokes, etc. Now, that's a good question, and that really depends on who the penciler that you're assigned with. Sometimes you don't really have communications with the. I think I'm just gonna ink through these. I think I'll just ink around these feelings. Sometimes you work with a penciler that you have no email contact. But with these days, there's really no excuse. You can find them through social media, and then you can talk to them. Like when you're done with the page, usually we have like for example, if I work with Marvel or DC, or you work with someone, we're connected to this email chain that we create. Like for example, when I'm say heart's the penciler, and then I'm inking heart, my friend who's watching YouTube right now, and then when I'm inking heart, and then the editor is like say I'm just gonna use your guys' names. Robert is the one of the editors, and then we have Danny. Danny B is gonna be the assistant editors. Once I'm done with inking, I will email Danny and Ramlin, and I'll also CC Hart, who is the penciler. So once they get the email, I would get like feedback, Danny would say, "Oh, can you fix this?" Or "Over here needs to be adjusted." "Oh, sure, okay, I'll do that." And then Hart will go, "Oh, I love your pencils. Can we ease up on this?" So there is that communication that goes on like through back and forth through the group emails, and we just go back and forth. And then like if something looks good, everyone just is in agreement. But if something is off, well, I'll just go and try to adjust it. Most of the times, if a penciler tells me that they like the a specific style of inking, I would go towards that way. So I pride myself in being able to adapt to different type of inking work. Like a good example is when I was working with Paul Smith. It's all brush. He just wants to be brush. He doesn't really have his work with quill or noodling. Everything he wants to be more relaxed, more faster, and more thicker and more fluid. When I was thinking with Arthur Adams, all he wanted was being inked with a micron. So I did that often, and I would talk to him, and then I discovered that that's what he wants. That's the style he wants. When I was inking over Jimmy Chung, he was also a micron. Actually, Jimmy was more of a fine liner guy. He likes to he likes using these pit pins. So I would ink him and then using the pit pins. And then I would usually try to use the same tools that artist is using, so I can adapt closer to the style, closer to the vision. If a penciler doesn't really mind what I use, then I would use all the tools and I would ink it the way I think the work will be looking good. Usually, when I'm making, I'm trying to make the penciler's work look good at their style. And if they have a say of how their style wants like what direction, then I'll ink it towards direction. Because if you're an inker, the best thing to do is to make the penciler happy. So if the penciler is happy, you get to continue doing more work with him. Like this piece I'm making here, I'm just thinking myself, so I can just go whatever direction I want. Like if I want to add more lines, I can add more lines. If I want to add less lines, I'll add less lines. But if I'm inking with someone, I have to be a little bit more precise, and I'm actually a little bit slower. I don't rush that much when I'm inking someone else's, because I want the work to be as close to their vision as much as I can. But when I'm making my work, I guess whatever's coming out from my hands is whatever's coming out. It just comes out automatically. So yeah, so there is some communication. Sometimes if you're talking to an art, when you're working with an artist that doesn't speak English, then I guess that communication isn't really there. And then you would just talk to the editor, and the editor will communicate back and forth with you about like what needs to be done and what needs to be adjusted. I've worked with pencilers that communicate with me in English, but then they're using Google Translate, and then sometimes that's a little bit off, but it still gets the point across. So there's that. So any kind of communications that you can do with the penciler, colorist, inker, is always good, because the overall completion of the book is like what you guys can put out there. The Raw Mythically wrote that blows my mind. I just can't ever see comic book inkers becoming obsolete. Inkers are critical to the whole comic creation process. I absolutely agree with you. I think inkers are the only breed of artists that is all about inking. I say that because writers, they can go out there and write comic books. They can write novels. They can write stories. They can write TV shows and stuff like that. Pencilers, they can always go out there and then draw stuff for storyboards, draw stuff for like ads, design, commercial work. Colorists, same thing. They can do all these color things like color video games or color whatever. But inkers, I think inkers are inkers. Inkers are people that does comic books and they do it well. Without inkers, everything just doesn't look well. I know inkers, they're the breed of inkers that are created was because of the deadlines. Without the deadlines, every artist can ink their own work. But inkers were created because it just helps penciler work on other pages while the inker is working on that. But I always thought that being an inker, you're like that one person, because like editors and assistant editors and designers and even letterers, they can do other work, but inkers were specifically all about inking. And I think stuff that's inked always looks better than stuff that are not inked, or they like shot directly from colored directly from pencils. Let's see. I'm a comic book editor. Yeah, you're a comic book editor for this demonstration, and Danny was also an editor. Unfortunately, ChatGPT and various AIs are taking over writing jobs and simple illustration. Yeah, I heard about there's all these as of recent month, there's all these talks about AI and how things are taking over, and yeah, some people are all for AI, and then some people don't really like AI. It really depends on your how you feel about it, your personality and what you feel. I think AI is great. If you can harness that and use that as a tool for you to continue doing work, you can type in all the stuff that you want, let AI generate it for you, so you can have an image, and then once you have the image, you can manipulate it a little bit more further on, and then you can make it your own work. It's not so much where a computer is taking over your work, but a human still needs to control the AI just to make sure the AI looks good. There are some images where you see online where you see AI images. It just looks a little bit off. Some of them looks amazing. That's just because there's a lot of stuff out there that the AI can search that up, and all those are created by humans. So if you can use, I've always been a Photoshop person. I like Photoshop, and Photoshop is something. It's like an image manipulation tool that you can use, and to me, AI is just another form of Photoshop where it's helping you do the work, but in the end, you're still the human that's controlling the AI. So I guess it really depends on how you see it. I don't see AI as a threat to taking over inking or anything. So what if you want this? Everyone inks differently. Some people ink with a thicker outline. Some people ink with a thinner outline. It really depends on what the artist wants. You've seen comic books where it's inked with different pencilers and different different inkers, and then also it's just really depends. AI is okay. I know it's a touchy subject for a lot of people. For me, I think it's kind of cool. I think what the main AI program's called, something Journey. I forget what it's called. I haven't gotten it yet. I know Photoshop, Adobe's going to have an AI program for their software soon. I saw it on the updates with Adobe, but I haven't ventured through and find out more about it because I want to play around with it a little bit more too. Let's see if there's any other questions. Okay, I think I got through all the questions. So if any of you have more questions, feel free to comment, and then I'll answer your questions. And now we'll talk about comic book conventions. And then anytime I do these live podcasts, I do love all your questions, so I can answer them. And then when I answer all the questions, I'll go back to the subject, which is comic book conventions. And yeah, feel free to ask any questions anytime. So yeah, setting up that convention. Once I have everything set up, tearing down is usually faster. At the end of the day, I try to tear down way fast. Like I'm usually once I'm at a convention, I stay open. Like I don't tear down. There's a lot of like some people like tearing down eve like half an hour before the convention is closed. I like staying there until 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 the someone on the intercom says the convention is over. Thank you for joining us here and see you next year or whatever, right? I usually stay there all the way until that announcement is made. And once that announcement is made, I pack up really fast. Packing up, setting up takes me, funny, setting up takes me 45 minutes. Tearing down takes me maybe half an hour because I'm setting up, I'm going against gravity. Tearing down, I'm using gravity. I just take everything down, let it fall down. Let it fall on the floor and just fold it up. Let it fall on the table, fold it up, and tearing down is just much more faster for me because my goal in tearing down is to make sure I put everything away so I can transport it out. Setting up takes a little bit longer because I'm finding the stuff, I'm finding its place, I'm looking for a location. Sometimes when you're at a new convention and you're at a new area that you're not familiar with, you're trying to find what works for the area that you're at. Because sometimes you're near a door and the door is going to create a breeze and it's going to blow all the stuff on like this side and it's going to tilt the banner and stuff. So all of that goes into consideration when you're setting up. Tearing down, all the rules are the same. All you want to do is just make sure everything is put away and get ready to haul away. I'm going to talk about, let's see, in visual effects, Danny wrote, in visual effects industry, most entry-level jobs have been outsourced to 3D with countries for now. I hope that doesn't happen in the comic industry. Danny, this is going to come to a surprise. Hopefully this doesn't come to a surprise for you. The inkers are sourced outside of the U.S. because it's cheaper. There's inkers that are from Spain, inkers that are from different countries because it's cheaper. Joe Prado's company, Carusa, is also sourced outside. They're not located in USA. There's a lot of inkers, pencilers, and colors, especially colors that are from outside of the USA, and then they do really well, and they don't really tell you like, oh, this inker is from here or there. But then I know the reason I know this is because I work in the comic book industry, and then we hear stories and we know like where this artist is from, or if this artist is part of that studio, or this artist is working outside, and because outside the company the dollar outside goes much longer than the dollar in the U.S. So if they're able to produce the quality that U.S. inkers or artists or pencils or whatever or letters can do, then that just like it makes it easier for the publisher or editor because they're saving money. They're saving money and then they're getting the work done and the quality is good. But then there is one thing that is important about working in comics. Like every comic that you work on, there's always somebody who wants the same job that you're working on. There's always going to be like 20 other artists that wants the same job that you're working on. And for you to be successful, you have to be really good at what you do. You really have to be really good. Not just for the one issue, but your body of work. Once you have an established body of work, it does get easier. But if you start out working in comics in the beginning, I'm going to be the first to tell you it's going to be really rough, like really, really rough. Okay. But once you're doing it for a while, it does get easier. I promise you guys. If you do comics for a good amount of time and then you're already doing it, it does get easier. It's not like the grind isn't always like there. That hustle isn't always there. It gets much easier. I get editors that would contact me and ask me, would you like to work on this? I get pencilers who contacts me and ask, would you like to work on a project together? So that does happen. In the beginning, when you're a nobody, you're less likely to be thought of, and getting work is a little bit harder, but it does get easier. Let me see. Yes, I appreciate honesty. Yeah, there is. It's just, yeah, it's Yeah, it's if you focus on the work and then just do the work, you'll be able to do the work. I know it's a little bit rough and a little bit sad, but you know, work is work. As long as it doesn't really affect you, you're just doing the work for yourself, and you're happy about doing the work. Then it's okay. You don't really need to worry about like the bigger picture of how everyone's not getting work. I do notice that a lot of publishers out there, like I don't know about not so much with Marvel, but with DC. DC when they solicit their books, they would kind of write down who the writer is, who the penciler is, and who the inker is. So you have an idea of who's inking it. Okay. These days, I notice that they don't list the acres that much, and that's because a lot of the artists that are working on the books, they're inking themselves. They're inking themselves digitally. Like with this new generation of artists that are coming out, most of them are drawing on the tablets or drawing on the computer, so they don't really need to be inked. So most of them are just getting their stuff inked as they're drawing. And then some artists from back in the day, they're learning. Like for example, Brian Bolin, he's a artist that started out working on traditional paper and pencil, but now he's doing things digitally and he's learning how to do that. So some artists they don't even use paper and pencil anymore. They're just using a stylus pen, and then they're just drawing on top of that. And more, I'm beginning to see more and more of that. So that does happen. So if you're inking, don't be discouraged by that. Try to just focus on the inking, and then work will come. And then if you can, also focus on some of the drawing too. I may not be inking all the time, but sometimes I'm penciling. When I have time, I pencil, but if I don't have time, I just stick with inking. Inking has kept me busy for a very long time, and you know I don't have anything bad about that. The roughest part is just the deadlines. Deadline is probably the only roughest part about everything, but I do love inking because I'm able to work with all these other artists that I grew up looking at, and now it's just continuing doing that to see how much longer. Like right now, I have this project that I'm working on. I can't really show this project, Avengers Unlimited Asgore Confidential. This project is for the Marvel Unlimited app. So I'm not even inking that for a printed book. It's going to be printed on the app, like on the phone app, kind of like Webtoons, where people are flipping through it. Just some of that does get reprinted into an actual copybook, but the format will be different. So I'm doing that, and I'm inking over someone who draws on the computer. So this is a how do I say this? It's some digital artists doesn't understand the line weights and such. So once in a while, you still get offered projects where you're inking over someone else's digital pencils because they draw nicely. It looks good, but it doesn't look like comic book style artwork. Or they'll draw scratchy, or they'll draw. I'm not saying the artist that I'm working with now draw scratchy. She draws really well, and I think she's a really amazing artist. I think it's just like a deadline thing. Sometimes deadline is just faster to have a team of people work on it. Like for example, RB Silva, he someone that I think for a while back then. When I was inking over him, I was actually inking over his digital pencils. Like all his lines, all the blacks were solid black already. I'm just going back in there and just giving it more of a line weight look. There's a lot of artists when you work in comics, you're gonna eventually maybe start working with some of those artists too. So like now, so far that's all the questions. Feel free to ask more questions, but I'm going to answer. Go back to comic book convention now. So there's a few things about comic book conventions that let's hopefully this will help like attendees as well as artists. Like if you have a booth at a show, like once you have everything set up, like I would say these are more pet peeves than anything. Like if you're at a comic book convention and an artist has all their original art laid out on the table and everything looks nice, I've had incidents where a fan who's not even looking at my table, which is okay. They're just standing there, they're chatting, and then they're talking to their friends because they like their cosplay or whatever. And then later on, their helmet that they have is really heavy, and they take it off, and then they just put it on my table, on top of all the original artwork that I have. That's the pet peeve, and I'm sure most of you can understand it. I mean, I'm sure with the cosplay person, his helmet is really hot or whatever, and then he just wants to take it off and put it on the table. Not to mention that helmet is all sweaty, it's dripping over my artwork, and then I just like let them put it there, even though I kind of like, oh no. And then once they walk away, I would just get like a little like napkin or towel to wipe off all the sweat. Luckily, my Atoya portfolio is covered in plastic, but in a way, it's kind of yucky, man. It's just, I hate to say, it's kind of nasty, like wiping off people's sweat because they put stuff on your table. I had people put soda drinks or like cans of soda or bottled water on top of my artwork, and I'm glad I have that in like a Toyo plastic sleeve. Otherwise, all that's gonna be messed up. Um, I've had people like flip through pages, and then pages kind of ripped a little bit because they're flipping so hard through the plastic. So yeah, sometimes it's at a comic convention, a little bit of like kind of make sure you protect other people's belongings is pretty good. I had I can talk about conventions and how there's all these things that's kind of weird. Sometimes you get like a whole group of people that would walk by your booth, and then they're not really looking at your booth, and they're just chit chatting. They're standing right in front of your booth, and then some people that wants to get towards your booth and they can't, and then they have to move on, and then they kind of miss your booth, and that happens. Some people will say, "Oh, can I you come over to your area, just like hang around there?" And they're hanging around for a very long time, and then you're like, yeah, "Okay, I'm glad you're hanging around, but like, don't you want to look at the rest of the show?" There's a lot of things that happens at a convention, but for the most part, most people are very nice. Most people are very kind. I had where I've been to comic book conventions where my Sharpies were getting kind of dull, and then a collector was asking people to sign stuff. And when he noticed that my Sharpie was dull, he pulled out his Sharpie to let me use to sign his books. And then when I was done, he also gave me the Sharpie. Here, yours look kind of dull. You can have this one. And there are like really nice people out there. Like sometimes I think people brought me food before, like not convention people, but like people that are guests. They'll like bring me like food, which is kind of nice. So that's always appreciated. Not that I need it, but it's just the thought that counts. Because when I'm working at a convention, there's really no time for me to walk outside my booth. Like I'm the only person that is running my booth, and then for me to walk out, I'm leaving all my stuff like unattended, unless you get to know your booth neighbor really well, and then you can ask them, "Hey, can you watch my stuff? I need to go use the restroom or something," and they'll watch, and then you end up watching each other. But sometimes you may end up being at a booth where there's no booth neighbors, and then you're hungry, you can't walk away, you need your restroom, you can't walk away unless like one of the convention volunteers come over to you, and it's not a handler that is just randomly checking up on you. "Oh, do you need food, or do you need to walk away?" And that's really like appreciated. When I'm at a convention, another thing that is really hard for me to do is eating, like taking a bite of food or eating. I most of the time when I'm at a convention, I'm staying at the booth. I want to meet everyone that comes up to me, and there's no time for me to eat anything or drink anything, which I don't mind, because from my experience, every time I take a bite of anything, like this is, I'm batting like 100 here. Anytime I take a bite of any kind of food, like a finger food or whatever, the moment I take a bite, someone's walking up to me, and then I'm like trying to like finish that mouthful of food so I can talk to them. And I feel like I'm so rude for taking a bite of the food. But like eating at a convention for myself is something that is really hard. So like once in a while I'll have like something really tight. I don't like it's like if I drink the food, it'll be even better. Like that's just faster. Yeah, so working at a convention is kind of hard. Let's see. I appreciate honesty. What kind of signage do you have at your table? Hart wrote. I have a sign which I bought at like a office depot store, like a stationery, like an office stationery store, which is just your basic sign. Sometimes like you go to like a regular store, you see signs that say, "Oh, this is on sale," and it's like this acrylic stand, and then I just print like a piece of paper and I'll tell them, oh, these are my commission rates. So I have a sign with my commission rate. That's the only sign I have actually. Like and that same sign also has my like the print costs and the cost of the print. It also has the cost of what type of commissions, what type of size. If you want a head sketch, if you want a full body, if you want backgrounds, if you want color. So all of that is listed on the signage. The other stuff I have that's any kind of signage is like I'll have these post-it notes that's like a star post-it notes, and then I'll stick it on some of the artwork, or I'll stick it on some of the prints that tells them like this is the last one, or just something where I can like quickly remove off the post-it note and just stick it there to let people know that that's the last piece of artwork, or one more left, or this is the one that's on sale. Or like if I have this comic book, I would just put a little post-it note and then that has the price on it. So that's the signage. And then also on that same acrylic, I only have one acrylic sign. The one acrylic sign is like 8.5 by 11, so that has my logo on it. It has my QR code. It has my website. It has all my social media logos, because all my social media is still under the same like Walden Art. But it'll have like Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook. It's all under the same name. So if someone's looking for me, they can just type in Walden Art, and then they'll see all the logos that shows them what social media that I have. So that has all that. I also have Venmo connected, like printed on that my Venmo account. So if people want to pay me, instead of me telling them what my Venmo is, they could just scan that and then they could just pay me that way. Yeah, so that's the only signage I have. I don't really have much signage aside from my my banner that has my name on it. Nothing that much. And then like little post-it notes that has like price of the prints and stuff. And then on the original art, I don't have any signage on the original art. I just use a pencil and I write down all the price of the original art on the top right corner in pencil. So if the collector who buys it and owns it, they can always use the pencil and erase that, or they can just keep it there so they remember the price of that. Yeah, so that's all I have as signage. Let's see, Hart Rose. I remember feeding you at San Diego Comic Con. Oh, so long ago. That good times. Hart, I do remember you feeding me at San Diego Comic Con. I remember most of the people that you fed there too. It was. Let me see if I can remember. Brett Breeding, was it? Also, something Cannon. Who I kind of remember. Though also the person who was in charge of comic art fans. I don't remember his name. You had some like really good artists there. Yeah, there was another artist that drew the Marvel monthly calendars. I remember you were talking to him, and then you bought that from him as well. But then yeah, that was a nice nice thing that you did. That was the only time that like someone did that for an artist. I thought that was like very, very awesome. Thank you for doing that, Hart. Okay, so I had to eat his face. Brett Blevin, John Morris, John Hebing. That's right. We end up working with John Hebing at Academy of Art, and also some books for Image Comics. He worked on The Bod, and he asked me to ink The Bod. John Hebing was there. That's right. Let's see. Rob McLean wrote, I know how busy it gets at cons, so I appreciate you taking the time to walk around at all the booths and guests for your YouTube videos. Yeah, I try to do that before the convention opens. Like I try to go there and get everything set up, and then once everything's set up, like usually people don't really mess around at my booth. and then or I'll have like a friend that went with me to the convention, because I have a friend who like if it's a local convention he'll drive and he'll help me set up a little bit, or sometimes he'll do something else, and then like before the show starts he'll watch my booth for a good few minutes so I can go around and do that those convention videos, and then I'll go back fast. But sometimes those convention videos I like I said, I like talking, so I end up talking, and then all of a sudden the show started, and then I lose track of that, and I'm still at the show. But then I also know that sometimes when I'm doing those walkabouts and meeting people, that they're also setting up. So I know that they may not have time to talk. So I try not to approach them. So the people that does are able to talk to me, I will talk to them. Hopefully, that'll give them some free promotion on their booths that they sell. I get to meet a lot of like artists and people who runs booth. For the most part, majority of the time that I meet people at a convention, I ask them if they want to talk about what they're doing, what they sell, if they have a website. They're very happy to talk about it because it's basically free promotion for them. And then once in a while, you get to meet this one person that doesn't want to talk to you, though I don't have anything to say. And oh, yeah, it's fine, but I don't know, like if you're at a comic book convention, isn't it nice to promote yourself so you get more business and sales? But I guess it really depends. Maybe it's the first time at a show and they don't really know what to do and they're kind of bashful and shy. Yeah, so I do enjoy going to conventions, and I do like doing those videos. So as I'm editing those videos, I'm also watching what I missed the first time, or sometimes I'll watch those videos, and all of a sudden I'll meet some of those people that comes into my booth, and then watching it again over editing, I'll remember, hey, I remember you. You're right here. I met you, and I guess we didn't really talk to each other back then, and now we know each other. So that's fun. Yeah, it's my way of seeing the convention again, so I don't miss anything. Let's see. Let's see, John Hebe. Hey, Snart. How are you, Snart? Uh, Good to see you here. Okay, I'm almost done with this piece. Just a few more details back and forth. So there's Wolverine so far, and then here's Deadpool, and then the rest is like a little detailing. So right now, all the shadow stuff that I need to do is done. I'm just going here and just add a little bit of some hash lines and curve lines just to give it a little more depth to the artwork. And again, this piece is something I penciled by myself, so I can add whatever detail I want after the fact, or before the fact, or stuff that I didn't pencil in the first time. I just go in there and add it in later. Okay, so there's that one, and I'm doing this based on the shadow that I have. So this shadow's here, but on this piece I don't really want a shadow, so I'm adding hash line. So this creates illusion of a shade. And then when you're inking all these lines, you want those lines to be somewhat spaced evenly, just to give a nice gradation, a nice tone, almost as if a computer printed it out. Yeah. So go back to the convention. Yeah, conventions are fun. I enjoy going to the conventions. I like it when conventions. Oh no, I inked myself. I guess it was still, so it's still wet here. So I'm just gonna use a towel to just kind of like absorb some of the extra ink so I don't smudge it. Luckily, there's no smudging. I just need to wipe my arm just to make sure there's no smudging. Okay. Yeah. So the hardest part is sometimes when you need to use the restroom and you can't get to the restroom because no one's watching your booth. That's the hardest part. So you rely on your booth neighbor. You try to be friends with them right then and there, and you ask them, "Can you watch my booth?" And even then, they're just one person. So when they're watching your booth and then they get busy, it's sometimes they can't watch your booth like totally. So you just have to run to the convention like really quick, run to the restroom really quickly. One of my first things I do when I'm at a convention is I try to find out where the restroom is, just so I can like wash my hands or like use the restroom really quickly and not have to ask and find out. And then once I know everything is like okay. See what else at conventions. I like collecting badges. So if a convention has badges that give to guests. They would have sometimes they'll have your name. Sometimes it's a general badge that just says guests. I have a whole collection of badges that I'm hanging behind my studio on a doorknob, so I collect those. I think that's probably the only thing I collect these days is just like a like a convention badges. I don't really go to that many conventions as much. I only go to conventions if they invite me to go to conventions. If they don't invite me, I don't go because I usually teach a art class on the weekends, and then if I go to convention, I would have to cancel an art class. And like sometimes I rather teach art because teaching is fun, and I like going to convention. But then conventions are once in a while. It's not like every week, so that's sometimes fun to go out and meet some of the people that buys the books that we worked on. So I like doing that. Let's see if we eat this part here. Let me see if there's any other questions. Okay. Yeah. I also like when I go to conventions that's further out. I also like going to some after parties or what some people call it the bar con, where it's just you just go to the hotel that most of the artists are staying at, and then you usually almost every convention I've been to, there's we call it bar con because it's kind of like the convention's over and all these artists is going to a bar and then just chit chatting or like eating and just drinking or whatever and just talking. I don't really drink alcohol myself, but then I still go there and then I'll like I'll order whatever to drink and then I'll just talk to some of the artists. And sometimes you have like artist friends that you don't see all the time. That goes to that con, and then we would just see them there. You get to hang out with them longer. I also have other artist friends that travel from different locations, and then we meet up with them, and we see them at the convention. And sometimes instead of going to the bar con, we go to like we hang out at each other's hotel room, and then we're just doing commissions. Like most of the times that we're going to a convention that's like 2 day, 3 day, we always there's always commissions that we can take the time to work on, and then we'll just hang out at each other's hotel room, and then we'll just talk, and then look at each other's commissions, and then continue talking about con. And sometimes we don't even just talk; we just focus on a commission because we just need to get it done. Sometimes you just need to get like the piece done, or sometimes you go out and hang out, and then most comic book artists they don't really see each other for in person for a long time. So when they do see each other at the convention, they want to hang out at the convention. They want to hang out and socialize a little bit. You guys don't have any questions? Okay, yeah. So conventions. Sometimes I'll go to certain conventions and then they'll have a tour. One of the conventions I've been to is which this is like one of the best tours that I've been to was I forget the name of the convention, but they gave us a tour of the Johnson Space Center, which was NASA. So I actually was able to check out a space shuttle from the inside. I was inside a space shuttle. They let us have a tour of that, and also some of the capsules and first space suits and where they train and all that, and some of the workers working there. So that was exciting. We'll get these VIP tours that they just it's like a little bonus extra that some conventions will invite you. There's also times where we have like a dinner with some of the guests. The convention promoter goes around and invites the guests. Would you like to have dinner with us? And we'll go meet over here. We meet there, and then we'll chit chat and talk about stuff. Most of the time, we just talk about comic books and like how the convention, how the show did, and nothing to like business stuff. So that's always fun. A lot of things. It's always different. Each show is always done differently. Some conventions don't have that, where they're inviting guests for dinner. Some convention does. Each convention does things differently. Most of the time, what happens at a convention is what you put into it, what you make of it. Okay, and I'm gonna go in here. I'm almost done. So this is almost done. I think I just need to go in there and draw some of the hair on Wolverine, which I'm not really looking forward to. A lot of hair, but I think I'm just gonna go and draw the hair anyway. I'm gonna draw this round part, the front of the face. Use this line here just to give it here. So I'm pushing in, and I'm going from thick. I'm going thicker as it goes towards the end, and then adds a little bit of detailing here. So this piece I'm working on is a pre-show commission, which I'm gonna turn in tomorrow to one of the collectors that had me working on this. I'm just gonna bring it there, and usually I'm not afraid of, I'm not worried if the collector isn't there that doesn't pay me. If they don't really buy, if they don't meet me there and they don't buy the work, usually I would just list it somewhere else that I have this piece that someone didn't buy, and then someone will buy it. So that's a good thing about like having your work out there and people recognize your work. Let's see, almost done. Let's see. Yeah, so conventions are fun. Depends. I'm from San Francisco. If I travel to different conventions, sometimes I'm wearing different outfits, and I don't know if I'm dressing accordingly. And you step out of the airplane, it's all like a hot breeze. Like going to Hawaii was one of the conventions which I wasn't like prepared for. I live in San Francisco, and San Francisco is usually like a cold area, and you dress in a hoodie, and then you're going there. By the time you step out of the airplane, it's like a burst of heat. It feels like you just stepped into an oven. Or if you're traveling, you're going to Charlotte, North Carolina. No, not Charlotte. Calgary during winter, and you think, oh, it's San Francisco weather. We're usually colder, so I'm not really worried about it. All of a sudden, you step out and it's like so cold. You can ice skate on the parking lot. So there's different things that you're not expecting, and then you really need to check the weather just to make sure everything is okay. So there's that, and then meeting different people at different conventions. Most of the times, some of the shows that I've been going to, they're local conventions, and so I see some of the same artists, and then I'm sure those artists sees me as well. But when I go to a show that's further away, I meet some artists that I've never met before, and that's always fun. But going to shows that you go regularly, those people that you see will become your friend, and those are your convention friends that you see only at conventions. So we have convention friends that we only see like once a year or twice a year and things like that. I'm making his teeth. And then when you see them, it's almost like you're picking up where you left off. Like you haven't seen them in a while, and then you're seeing them again, and then you're talking. And it's just nice. Sometimes you're at a show, and then people like will say hi to me, and I realize they don't even remember my name, and that which is okay. I remember faces more than I remember names. So sometimes I'll remember a face, but then I don't remember the name. Like so that's at least I remember the face. Okay. See, and then some comic book people you become friends with. Also some collectors that you meet over and over again. You become friends with them. Also people that cosplays. You see them over and over, and they come and hang around your booth. And I kind of like it when cosplayers hang out at my booth, because when they're hanging out at my booth, it draws like a crowd. It really depends on if you're the type of person that don't mind people being at your booth, or if you're the type of person that does want people at your booth. So there's that. That's all the convention stuff. So right here, I'm pretty much done with all the line work. Let me add a little ankle for over here. Dip pull, some folds, and then now I'm gonna start. That's almost like a 2-hour video. You guys still hanging around with me? Thank you. So I'm gonna start doing the Wolverine's fur, all those fur. I'm just gonna use a micron because the micron is faster, and there is a specific way that I do this. Okay, so I'm gonna hatch this way, hatch that way. I'm gonna do this really quickly. Look, it's just there's 2 arms. So hair is usually on this side, never on the elbow. On the top side, maybe some on the side. So some on the front, and then some on this side. So I'm gonna start off adding some hair here. So what I'm doing is I'm just hatching lines the one direction, like that. After I'm hatching lines that direction, I'll tilt the paper, and I'll continue hatching like a pattern in the same direction. So in a way, I'm cross hatching, but I'm cross hatch halfway, and I'll turn it, and I'll continue hatching this direction. So I am creating a pattern while I'm doing this, but I'm not making a mess. Okay, so it looks kind of neat. Like the artist that I studied to do this was Tim Townsend. Tim Townsend's pretty good at doing these type of hair. Okay, I remember when he was inking a lot of Wolverine hair, he was doing this technique. Everyone does it differently, but then I like the way he did it. So when I started working on Ben Grimm and Logan, it was a 3-issue miniseries where I was inking over Kari Andrews. I was inking all the Wolverine hair like this. So it's not messy, it's orderly, but there's a pattern to it. But after everything is inked, it doesn't look like a pattern. Okay, so I'm tilting it this way. Once I'm done that way, I'll cross hatch halfway, like this. Okay, and I'll keep doing that. I'll maintain that, and I think about where else on the arm will have that, because on the bottom part won't have that. So I'm starting to ease up less, and I'm tilting it, and I'm using my left hand, and I'm continuing doing that. There's some on the front have less, some on the back has a little bit longer. And then on the forearm, same with this way, I'm gonna start hatching it here. Then I'll tilt it a little bit, and I'll hatch this direction. I'll tilt it back to the original direction, and I'll tilt it here. And I'll continue doing that pattern. And then some up here, and then some over here. Yeah, this inking technique hasn't, like, I think I made a video on how to ink Wolverine arm hairs. And then maybe a little bit, let me see, I look at your own arm, there's maybe a little bit of hair down there. And then maybe Wolverine's more of a furry guy. So we're gonna add more hair over on this side and this side. Yeah, so yeah, conventions are fun. If you haven't been to a comic book convention before, you're watching these podcasts. I know there's some viewers who watches my podcast just to hear stories about comic books. If you haven't been to a convention before, I highly recommend going to a convention. It is a lot of fun. Bring a backpack. Bring a backpack to a convention. Bring bottles of water. You will be walking a lot, especially if you're in San Diego Comic Con. That's a lot of walking. I think it's like 3 football fields long, so make sure you have comfortable shoes. It's gonna be a really crowded place, so expect a lot of walking. You're gonna be tired. Take a break every so often. Let's see, Romy Tickling, I love your work on Superman Red Sun. Is there another Marvel or DC project that you would have loved to have inked? Well, when I worked on Superman Red Sun, that was a project that just landed on me. Tom Palmer Jr., the editor, who's actually the son of legendary inker Tom Palmer, he contacted me and asked me if I would like to work on Superman Red Sun. And then he told me what the story is about. And at the time when he told me, I was really excited about it, and I still am. That's like, I'm really proud of that, because to this day they're reprinting. I just looked at Previews World, and they're reprinting another volume coming in 2 months, 2 or 3 months. So I know that once it's going to be reprinted, they're going to send me like another comp copy, and that also means like more royalties. That book that I've done for DC Comics has been reprinted so many times, and I'm still getting royalties from that. It is a good chunk of royalties, so it's not like, it's pretty happy. But for most of the time when I'm working on a project, I don't really get to choose. I'm not like someone who to choose and pick the project. I guess I can like say yes to a project or say no to a project, but it's not like I can contact Marvel or DC and say, hey, you have any Wolverine projects for me to work on? Or you have any Deadpool projects for me to work on? It's not so much like that. It's sometimes like it's whatever projects that's offered to us, and then we just do it. And if that project turns out to be good, then you get to work on it. Like another project that I've done for DC, which turned out pretty good, was the Return of Bruce Wayne. I didn't think that was that big of a deal, but I guess I guess this is a time when Batman was kind of gone, and like Red Hood was taking over all that. And I did a few issues of Return of Bruce Wayne, and then that one keeps getting reprinted over and over again. So that, there's royalties there. Again, it's not like constant royalties, but it's still some kind of royalties. Let me see. There's arm. I'm gonna add a little bit more arm here too. And there's also like the Flash. that gets reprinted, like the omnibus that I've done some work in. So yeah, it depends on what the project is, and then if I'm lucky to get that project, it's great. If it's just a regular project, any project that becomes like something mainstream and pop culture, like Superman Red Sun, is always like nice. But not a lot of artists will get to work on something like that. Okay. So yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all of this commission here. I'm gonna sign my name. Let's see. I'm gonna sign. Where can I sign my name? It's hardly in the room. Let's see. I'm gonna sign my name. Oh, before all of you guys go, I would hit that like button. So this videos get shared in the future. That always helps me on my algorithm. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Watch my videos. I think I'm signing my name right here. Walden. Wong. Every time I sign my name, I have to spell it because if you sign a lot of comic books, like at a convention, and you don't spell your name, there's a good chance that you misspell your name. So there you have it. That is the Deadpool that I've just inked. Here's Deadpool. Pencil and ink, and it's going to be given to the client at Powerhouse Comic Con tomorrow at the convention I'll be at. If you're one of my patrons that you subscribe to my Patreon page, if you meet me at any conventions and you're one of my patrons, feel free to come up to my booth. You get to pick out 3 free prints of your choice, and I'll sign it for you for free. Thank you for being a patron. So until next time, please subscribe to my. Oh, thank you, Hart. I'm glad this is fun. I think I'm gonna scan it. I don't know. Maybe I'll make this into a print. Like I kind of like how this one turned out. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Subscribe, like, share, and until next time, have a good weekend and happy Memorial Day for next week. Bye, guys. Take care.